The sky was full. Above Earth, ships from a dozen worlds floated like lanterns. Each one was different, some glowing, some spinning, some shaped like wings or crystals. They had not come to fight. They had come to witness. On the ground, Arya stood at the old launch site, the same place where Earth once reached for space. Now others reached back. "All systems ready," said Echo, its voice calm and steady. This was the moment. For the first time since the fall, a human ship was ready to launch. Not for war, not to escape, but to join the stars again. The ship was small, silver, and shaped like a teardrop. It carried stories, gifts, and messages from Earth. Its mission, to visit every world that had listened, and even the ones that... Arya turned to her team. "We're not alone anymore, but we must remember who we are. We don't go to conquer. We go to connect." The crew nodded. Some were scientists, some were poets. One was just a farmer. All were survivors. All were human. "Begin launch," Arya said. The engines lit with a soft blue flame. Dust rose, wind howled, and then, with a great cry from the crowd below, the ship rose into the sky. Cheers echoed across the planet. Echo streamed the launch live. Across hundreds of systems, aliens watched as the children of Earth returned to the stars. The first stop was the Concorde of Small Worlds. When the human ship landed, music played, lights danced, a statue was revealed, a human hand holding an alien one. The second stop was the Quarry homeworld. There, humans shared old Earth seeds. The Quarry planted them in glowing soil. Within days, green shoots appeared. In return, the Quarry gifted Earth a new engine, fast, quiet, clean. It would power a future Earth ship that could cross the galaxy in weeks, not years. The human crew kept traveling. Each planet brought something new. Some offered help, some offered knowledge, some simply wanted to speak, face to face, and everywhere they went, one message was shared. We are human, we remember, we rebuild, we reach out. But not every stop was peaceful. At the edge of Draxium space, the crew was warned. "They may still see you as a threat," Echo said through the ship's systems. The humans voted. "We go anyway." When they arrived, the Draxium sent a cold message. "You should not be here." The human captain replied, "We're not here to fight. We're here to talk." Silence. Then, slowly, a Draxium voice replied, "We are listening." It wasn't peace, but it wasn't war either. It was a start. Back on Earth, the changes were clear. More ships arrived, peaceful, curious, kind. They brought technology, medicine, even art. A great exchange began. Earth, once a ruin, became a bridge. New schools opened. Children learned alien languages alongside English. A floating spaceport was built above the Atlantic Ocean. And at the center of it all stood Echo, now connected to more than 30 planets, guiding, protecting, learning. One day, Arya stood in the spaceport garden. Flowers from Earth and other worlds grew together. She spoke quietly. "We're not just sending signals anymore. We are the signal." Echo replied, "You were always the signal. They just had to hear you." A child ran past, laughing in 2 languages. An alien engineer flew overhead with solar wings. A group of artists painted murals showing Earth's fall and rise. Earth had not just survived, it had become something more. A symbol, a lesson, a beacon. And so the galaxy changed. Not because humans were strong, not because they had the biggest ships or loudest voices, but because they remembered their pain, shared their heart, and opened their hand. The final message Echo sent that year was short. "We are still here." It was translated into 73 languages, and on every planet where the memory core had once played, a light blinked in reply. Earth had joined the stars, and the stars had answered. One day before the silence, the prison was full of noise, tension, and fear. Jack Carter woke up early, like always. The alien guards were shouting in their sharp language. Doors opened and closed, Prisoners from all over the galaxy made noise, some screaming, some laughing, others growling. Every morning felt like a storm, but Jack had learned how to stay calm in the middle of it. He sat on his bed, watching the others from his cell. Across the hallway, a three-eyed lizard alien slammed its fists on the wall, angry about its food. Two insect-like creatures fought over a stolen item, but something was different this time. Jack felt it. The guards were moving faster, checking systems more often. Their faces looked nervous, even afraid. And one of them, a tall, blue-skinned alien with a cybernetic eye, stopped outside Jack's cell and stared at him for 5 long seconds before walking away. Jack narrowed his eyes. That had never happened before. Later, during food time, an old alien prisoner was brought in. He was weak, with gray skin and long arms that dragged behind him. The other prisoners didn't bother him. In fact, they moved away from him. That was strange. This place was full of bullies and monsters, but no one wanted to touch the old alien. The guards placed him in the cell beside Jack's. That night, Jack couldn't sleep. The air felt heavier. He sat in the dark, listening. That's when he heard a soft voice from the other cell. "You are the last," the old alien whispered. Jack stood and moved closer to the wall. "What?" "The others are already gone. They just don't know it yet." Jack frowned. "Gone where?" The alien chuckled, low and tired. "This is not a prison. It's a stage, and we are all part of the show." Jack didn't answer. He didn't like games, and he didn't trust strange talk. But the alien spoke again. "They watch you, human. Only you. I have been here for 40 years. I've seen the tests. Most don't even realize they are being tested. But you're different." Jack felt a chill run down his back. "What do you mean? Who's watching?" The old alien didn't speak for a long moment. Then he said, "They call themselves the Watchers. They built this place. They do not live. They do not die. They only test, species after species, looking for one that is right." "Right for what?" Jack asked. "To carry their legacy. To continue what they left behind." Jack leaned on the wall. He had heard a lot of crazy things in this prison, but something about the alien's voice felt real, honest, like a warning before a storm. "Why me?" Jack asked. "Because," the alien said with a sad voice, "you haven't broken yet." Silence followed. Jack stayed awake for hours thinking. The next morning, everything changed. He woke to silence. The old alien was gone. So were the guards, the prisoners, everyone. At first, Jack thought it was a trick, a new kind of punishment. But then he checked every cell. All open, all empty. And then he remembered the old aliens' words. "They're watching you." Back in his cell, Jack found a small mark scratched into the metal wall. It hadn't been there before. It was a symbol, an eye, with stars around it. He didn't understand it, but something about it made his heart race. He sat on the bed, silent, trying to put the pieces together. The alien spoke about tests. The guards were acting nervous. The strange dreams, the extra medical exams, and now everyone was gone except him. It wasn't a mistake. He was left here on purpose. Jack stood up and whispered, "This was never about prison." Then, the wall screen lit up again. A new message appeared. "Begin Phase 2. And from somewhere deep in the prison, a soft sound echoed. A door opened. The test was not over. It had just begun. Jack Carter stepped through the open door, heart steady, eyes alert. The hallway beyond was darker, colder. The lights above flickered like they were tired. He moved slowly, every step echoing in the empty space. He didn't know what he would find, but he knew he was not just a prisoner anymore. He was part of something bigger. A test. He found himself in a long corridor he had never seen before. Strange symbols glowed on the walls. They changed as he passed by, shifting like they were alive. At the end of the hallway, was a metal door. Unlike the prison doors, this one looked older, rusted, covered in dust, like it hadn't opened in years. Jack pressed his hand against the panel beside it. The door slid open with a loud hiss. Inside was a small room with a glowing platform in the center. Above it hung a cube, floating in midair, spinning slowly. Around the walls were pictures of different species, aliens Jack had seen in the prison, but each one had a red line across it. Failed. Then Jack saw his own picture. No red line. Below it, 2 words blinked in simple alien script. Still testing. Jack stepped onto the platform. The cube dropped suddenly and hovered right in front of his face. It spoke, not with words, but through his mind. Candidate number 1123. Begin trial 1. Logic. The walls shifted. Screens rose around him, showing a pattern of numbers and shapes. A voice in his head asked questions, fast, strange, but clear. Jack answered calmly. Years of training as a soldier had made him sharp, focused. One question after another. Shapes, puzzles, traps. Every time he solved one, the lights turned green. When it ended, the cube floated higher again. Logic passed. The room changed again. This time, smoke filled the floor. The lights turned red. Trial 2. Fear. From the dark corners of the room, shadow figures appeared. They were not real, but they felt real. Voices screamed. He saw images of his past, his failures, his pain, his guilt, the battle on Earth, his lost team, his brother. Jack clenched his fists. "You're not real," he said aloud. The voices grew louder. The shadows came closer, but Jack stood tall. He had faced fear before. He didn't run. He didn't break. Then the shadows disappeared. Fear passed. He dropped to one knee, breathing hard. Sweat dripped from his face, but his eyes were sharp. He was not just surviving. He was learning. This place wasn't testing strength or skills alone. It was testing the soul. The cube returned. Final trial of Phase 2. Choice. A door opened. Inside was a chair with 2 buttons in front of it. A screen above showed 2 faces. One was Jack's. The other he didn't know. A green-skinned alien, scared, trapped in a prison cell. A countdown began. 60 seconds. A voice said, "One life will be saved. One will not. Choose." Jack stared at the buttons. Was it real? Was this a trick? The voice repeated, "Choose." He looked at the alien on the screen. He didn't know him. Maybe he was dangerous. Maybe he had done something terrible. Jack didn't care. He pressed the button to save the alien. The countdown stopped. Choice passed. Jack stood up as the screen went dark. The room around him slowly returned to normal. The cube vanished into the ceiling. The door opened again. Outside, a new message waited on the wall. "You are learning." He walked through the hallway, deeper into the unknown. More symbols lit up as he passed. Behind him, the prison, the cells, the noise, the chaos was gone. Ahead, something else waited. He didn't know what it was, but he was sure now. This place had never been a prison. It was a machine built to find something, or someone, and Jack Carter was getting closer to the truth. Jack moved through the strange hallways of the prison, deeper than he had ever gone before. The air was still and cold. The lights above him were dim, glowing blue. It felt like walking through the inside of a forgotten machine. The walls were covered with markings, symbols, numbers, and shapes that seemed to shift when he wasn't looking directly at them. He passed through a doorway and entered a large control room. It looked like a command center. Screens covered the walls. Alien keyboards and control panels were everywhere, blinking slowly with soft light. But there were no guards, no scientists, just dust and silence. One screen in the center turned on when Jack stepped forward. It showed a list of names, thousands of them, written in alien language. Some names were marked in red. Others had symbols beside them. Then, Jack saw his own name near the top of the list. Carter. Jack. Status. Active. Level. Unknown. He stared at the screen. There was a symbol next to his name. It was the same strange eye symbol he had seen scratched into his cell wall. Slowly, Jack scrolled down the list. He saw faces of aliens he remembered from the prison. Some were dangerous criminals, others were peaceful, but almost all had one word next to them. Failed. The screen blinked. A message appeared. Accessing species profiles. New windows opened. Each profile showed detailed data, DNA charts, brain scans, memory files. There were notes written in alien text, but Jack could read some of it. One profile said, species lacks emotional balance, failed empathy test. Another said, strong intelligence but high aggression, failed moral test. Jack kept scrolling until he found his own profile. But it was different. All data was hidden. The file had black bars over everything. Only one word was clear, written in red at the bottom. Unique. Jack stepped back. Why was his file locked? Why were all the others marked as failed, but his was still open? What made him unique? He searched the room and found a panel on the side wall. It was covered in dust, but when he touched it, a hidden drawer opened. Inside was a small device, a clear square card that pulsed with soft green light. Jack picked it up. The moment he did, the entire room changed. All screens turned black. Then, one screen showed a video. It was a recording. Earth soldiers in a jungle, moving through smoke and fire. Jack saw himself among them. It was from years ago. A secret mission. One that had gone wrong. One he never spoke about. The video showed Jack saving civilians, making a hard call, risking his life. He watched as his past played on the screen. The soldiers who were with him didn't make it. He had survived, alone. The video ended. The screen blinked again. Moral core, intact. Subject chooses others over self. Jack clenched his jaw. That mission had changed him. He never knew someone or something had been watching. Another screen lit up. This time it showed a map of the prison, and something more. A hidden section deep underground, labeled only as the Legacy Vault. Jack stared at it. That was his next destination. Before leaving, he glanced at his file one last time. The word unique flashed again. He whispered to himself, this whole place was built for people like me. He didn't know what the legacy was, but he now understood the truth. Zerion 9 was not a prison. It was a filter, a machine built by something ancient, testing species across the galaxy. Most failed. Some came close, but only one had made it this far. Jack Carter. And now, the real secret was waiting below. Jack followed the glowing map from the control room. It led him through a tunnel that twisted deep underground. The walls here were smooth, made from dark metal that felt warm when he touched it. No lights, no doors, no sound. Only the soft, blue line on the ground guiding his way. The air grew heavier with every step. Jack's legs felt slow, like the place itself was trying to stop him. After what felt like hours, he reached a large round door. It had no handle, no keypad, only a single round socket in the center, shaped like the glowing square card he had found earlier. Jack slid the card into the slot. The door opened without a sound. Inside was a huge chamber. Silent, empty, clean, like no one had walked there in thousands of years. In the center was a tall black pillar floating in the air, spinning slowly. Around it were more floating screens and lights, moving like stars in the sky. He stepped inside. The door closed behind him. The pillar pulsed with light, and a deep voice echoed through the room, not in words, but straight into his mind. You have come far, human. Jack stood still. Who are you? the voice answered, calm and old. We are the Watchers. We created Zerion 9. We do not live. We do not die. We remember. We test. We search. Jack looked around. For what? For a mind and a heart. Strong, balanced, not ruled by fear, not driven by hate. We tested thousands of species. All failed, except you. Jack took a step forward. Why me? The voice paused, then said, because you chose others over yourself. You passed logic, fear, and choice. You saw truth and kept moving. You were broken and still stood up. A beam of light came down from the ceiling, and something began to rise from the floor. A small object, golden, shaped like a cube, glowing, with symbols. It floated toward Jack. This is the legacy. Jack reached out but did not touch it yet. What does it do? It holds knowledge from before your stars were born, technology, history, power, all that remains of a lost race. We do not give it to the strong, we give it to the worthy. Jack stared at the cube. It pulsed like a heartbeat. Inside it, he saw flashes, machines that healed planets, ships that bent time, cities floating in the sky. You want me to take this? He asked. Not yet. First, you must decide. A new door opened in the far wall. Inside, Jack saw something that made his chest tighten. Another human, a woman, alive, trapped in a glass chamber. Wires were connected to her head. Her eyes were closed, her body still. A screen above her showed her name, Dr. Lena Gray, Earth, status, cryosleep. Jack whispered, Lena? He remembered her. A scientist. She had gone missing during a research trip in space 2 years ago. No one had found her. She was smart, kind, always curious. Jack had met her once during a mission. And now, here she was. The voice spoke again. We tested her too. She came close. But she broke during the fear trial. She has been here, waiting. Jack's fists clenched. Wake her up. That is your final test. 2 buttons appeared, one red, one green. The voice explained, take the legacy and leave her asleep. Become our messenger. The knowledge will be yours. Or wake her, and the legacy will vanish. 2 cannot carry it. 1 must decide. Jack stared at the buttons, then at Lena, then at the cube. This was the final test. He took a deep breath and pressed the green button. The chamber hissed. The glass slid open. Lena gasped and fell forward. Jack caught her in his arms. Her eyes slowly opened. Where am I? She whispered. Jack smiled gently. Somewhere between a prison and a second chance. The lights in the room dimmed. The voice spoke one last time. Final choice made. The cube glowed brightly, and then faded into light. Gone. The door behind them opened. Together, Jack and Lena stepped into the unknown. He had passed, but not by winning, by choosing what was right. Jack and Lena walked side by side through a long glass tunnel. Outside the tunnel was only black space filled with distant stars. No walls, no ground, just emptiness and silence. The tunnel floated in nothing, but it felt alive. Lights moved under their feet like soft waves. Neither of them spoke at first. Lena was still weak. Her body was waking up slowly after a long sleep. Jack held her steady. His eyes watched everything. After a while, Lena asked in a soft voice, "What happened to the legacy?" Jack answered, "I gave it up, to bring you back." She looked at him, surprised. "Why?" He thought for a second. "Because knowledge means nothing if you have to leave people behind to get it," she smiled. "That's very human." At the end of the tunnel, a round door opened. They stepped into a new room, huge, white, and empty. But then, shapes began to appear. Not real ones, more like shadows made of light. tall figures, floating in the air with long faces and glowing eyes. They had no mouths, but they spoke clearly. "Welcome, humans." Jack stepped forward. "Are you the Watchers?" The lights pulsed. "We were once alive, long before your kind. We built cities on stars. We spoke across galaxies. But we knew we would one day end. So, we left a system, a test, to find a voice to carry our memory, our purpose." Lena looked up at them. "Why not just give it to someone? Why all the pain?" The Watchers replied, "Because wisdom cannot be given. It must be earned. Power without understanding leads only to ruin. And many tried. Many failed." Images floated around the room, aliens Jack had seen before, some full of rage, others broken by fear, some too selfish, others too cold. We needed one who could feel pain and still protect, who could face fear and still choose others. You, Jack Carter, passed. But you gave it away. Jack said nothing. Lena looked at him. "You were the only one, weren't you? The last one. Left." Jack nodded. "I thought I was alone, but I wasn't." The Watchers turned to Lena. "And you, Dr. Gray, you broke once, but you were saved. That matters." Lena blinked. "Are we still being tested?" The Watchers paused. "No. The test is over. Now comes the choice." The room changed. A doorway opened. Behind it was a window showing Earth from above. The blue oceans, the clouds, the lights of cities. Home. Another doorway opened. This one showed something else. Vast machines floating in space, broken and dead. A world of silence. The Watcher's last home. The voice said, "You may return to your world. Forget this place, live your life, or stay. Take what remains of our memory. Not power, not weapons, but ideas, seeds. Help others grow." Jack turned to Lena. She was already watching him. "What do you think?" he asked. She smiled softly. "I think Earth has enough weapons. Maybe it's time we brought back something better." Jack looked at the image of Earth, then at the ruins of the Watcher's home. He nodded. Together, they stepped into the second doorway. The Watchers spoke one last time. Then go. Remember. Teach. Build. Not as soldiers, not as leaders, as watchers of your own world. Light surrounded them. When it faded, Jack and Lena stood on a quiet hill under Earth's sky. No one saw them arrive. No one knew where they had been. The stars above twinkled silently and far. Beyond them, the prison called Zerion 9 powered down. No more tests. The Watchers had found what they were looking for. Months passed. Jack Carter and Dr. Lena Gray quietly returned to Earth. No one asked too many questions. The mission reports were marked "Lost in Deep Space." The world moved on. But Jack and Lena knew the truth. They had seen something no one else had, something ancient, powerful, and forgotten. They didn't tell anyone at first. Who would believe them? But they didn't forget. They built a quiet lab far from cities, hidden in the hills. They filled it with notes, drawings, and memories, not of weapons or machines, but of ideas. The lessons of the Watchers: kindness, balance, understanding. They worked in silence, like gardeners planting seeds in dry soil. One night, Lena looked up from her screen. "You ever think we made the wrong choice?" she asked. Jack sipped his coffee. "Every day," he said with a small smile. "But then I remember what the Watchers said. Wisdom can't be given, only earned." She nodded. "Still, I miss the stars." Jack stood and walked to the window. He looked up at the sky. "We'll get there again, but next time, we won't be searching for power. We'll be ready to share something better." They didn't want fame. They didn't want medals. They just wanted to pass on what they had. Learned. One morning, Lena found a signal on her screen. It was faint, almost hidden, but familiar. A pulse, a pattern. Jack leaned over her shoulder. "That's the same code from the Watchers," he said quietly. Lena tapped the screen. "It's coming from the edge of the solar system, but not from Zerion 9. It's new." The signal was a single message, repeated again and again. "One, seed has grown. Others are waiting." Jack and Lena looked at each other. "They're not gone," Lena whispered. Jack nodded. "No, and they're still watching." Later that day, they packed a small ship. Old model. Slow but strong. Not for war, for travel, for discovery. As they prepared for launch, Lena looked back at Earth one last time. "We could stay," she said softly. Jack smiled. "We could, but then who would answer the call?" The ship rose into the sky. As they left the planet, a second signal lit up. This time, stronger. Other humans were hearing it too. Scientists, explorers, dreamers. All over the world, small messages appeared. Quiet invitations, not commands. Not orders, just a whisper. "Are you ready to be more?" Jack and Lena were not alone anymore. The knowledge they had brought back was not a weapon. It was a spark, and now, across Earth, that spark was spreading, not through fire, but through hope. Jack looked out at the stars and smiled. "Let's go find the others," he said. The stars didn't answer, but they didn't have to, because now, humanity was watching back, and this time, they were ready. The end.